The nights in this village hit differently. Silence stretches so far it hums. I had come here on a teaching internship, something to make my resume stand out, something to get me away from routine. Max had supported the idea, even helped me pack. But now, 3 weeks in, we barely spoke. Calls came and went. Messages lost in time zones. Love was there, but so was a distance neither of us had words for. The guest house was simple. 4 walls, a creaky bed, a fan that made more noise than wind. It sat next to a row of volunteer quarters, most of them empty this season. My room was close to the local side, boys who had grown up here, worked odd jobs, helped around the campus, and made everything feel less foreign. Toby was the first to catch my attention. He wasn't loud, but his presence made you notice him. He had a laugh that could crack tension, and eyes that stayed on you a little longer than normal. I wasn't sure if it was curiosity or something else, but it lingered. The second was Cabello, more reserved, artistic. He'd often be found with a pencil behind his ear or sketching on the porch steps. He rarely spoke to me, but I'd feel his gaze when I walked by. One night, the lights went out. No warning, no storm. Just darkness swallowing the evening whole. I lit the candle near the window, sat down with my phone's dying battery, and tried texting Maximum. No signal. I stared at the screen until it faded to black. A soft knock broke the silence. I paused. Another knock, firmer this time. Opening the door, I saw Toby, holding a candle in one hand, Cabello behind him. Power's out. We figured you could use some company, Toby said with a grin. I hesitated. My first instinct was to say no. I didn't want rumors, didn't want complication. But their faces, that ease. I nodded. They stepped inside. The candlelight painted long shadows across the walls. We sat on the bed, legs folded, passing around a half-open bag of biscuits from my shelf. Toby asked questions about where I was from. Cabello listened more than he spoke, sometimes nodding, sometimes just sketching in his pad, glancing up now and then. I laughed more that hour than I had in weeks. Their humor was effortless, the kind that didn't feel like performance. Toby leaned in closer as he joked, brushing against my shoulder once, maybe twice. I told myself it was tight space. Cabello handed me a sketch pad at one point. On the page was a soft pencil drawing, me, sitting under candlelight, eyebrows furrowed in thought. I stared at it for a while. You just did this now. He nodded, then shrugged, like it wasn't anything. The wind outside picked up, whistling through the cracked window. Toby stretched his arms, yawned, then lay back on the bed, his legs still hanging over the edge. Honestly, he said, it's too quiet out there tonight. Yeah, Cabello added, softly, too quiet to sleep alone. Toby turned his head toward me, eyebrow lifted. Mind if we crash here tonight? My breath hitched. For a second, I thought of Maximum. The sound of his voice when he told me he missed me. The way he laughed on FaceTime the last time we actually connected. But I also thought of the silence since. Of messages Mark seen but never replied to. Of a feeling that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't waiting the way I was. It's a small bed, I said, half laughing. Toby grinned. We don't mind small. I should have said no. Should have drawn a line. But instead, I blew out the candle and let the dark make my decision. Toby kicked off his sandals and slipped under the thin sheet first, settling against the wall. Cabello lay on the other side. I was in the middle, their warmth already radiating into me. We didn't speak after that. Just the sound of the fan clattering and their slow, even breaths filling the room. Eyes open, staring into nothing, I felt Toby shift closer. I felt Cabello's hand lightly brush mine and then stay there. I didn't move. At some point, I must have dozed off. But it wasn't a deep sleep, the kind where your body rests but your thoughts keep spinning. I woke sometime past midnight. The fan had slowed to a dull rattle. Moonlight crept through the half-open curtains, spilling across the floor in slanted white strips. The room was silent, but thick with breath and presence. Toby lay on his side, facing me. Even in sleep, his features seemed composed, relaxed, as if peace came easily to him. Cabello, on the other side, was lying still, one arm stretched out, fingers just brushing mine from earlier. I stayed between them, motionless, aware of every inch of space, or lack of it. My body was aware in ways I didn't want to admit. I could feel the warmth radiating from both sides, not just physical warmth, but something else. That pulse of attention, of being noticed. A shift happened, so subtle it could have been imagined. Toby's leg lightly pressed against mine. Not aggressively, just enough to be felt. Then, after a beat, he whispered, "You're still awake." I swallowed hard, not answering. He leaned closer. I didn't look at him, just stared at the ceiling. "You think too much," he murmured. "I have someone," I said. Quiet. The words barely escaped me. "I know," he replied. "So do most people." That made me turn to him. He wasn't smiling, not this time. He looked calm, certain. "We're not here to mess up your life," he added. "We're just here, right now." Behind me, Cabello shifted. I felt his hand again, more intentional this time, slipping gently around my wrist, then retreating as if testing permission. My heart pounded so loudly it drowned out the wind outside. I didn't move. I didn't pull away. Toby's hand moved too, resting gently on my stomach, his touch feather-light. It wasn't possessive. It was exploratory. Curious. Kind. "You don't have to do anything," he said. "But don't pretend this isn't real." I turned away from him, unsure whether I was rejecting or surrendering. And in turning, I faced Cabello. His eyes were open, watching me. There was no seduction in his gaze, only understanding. Like he already knew the parts of me I tried to keep hidden. "You're beautiful when you're conflicted," he whispered. His voice was low, but it held weight. My breathing grew shallow. This wasn't just about attraction. It wasn't even about desire. It was about the ache that had built in me for weeks, maybe months. The ache of being unseen, unheard, unheld. I thought of Maximum. I thought of his last message. "Sorry, I'll call tomorrow. Being hectic." That was 5 days ago. And he, now, were two strangers who somehow made me feel more seen in one silent hour than I had in weeks of missed calls and unanswered texts. I didn't know how it started. Maybe Toby moved closer first. Maybe I did. But I felt his breath at my neck, steady and sure. Cabello's fingers brushed mine again, this time interlacing. The room felt like it stopped breathing, holding still just for us. Toby's touch wasn't rushed. There was no urgency, no force. Just closeness. Cabello shifted behind me, his chest rising and falling in sync with mine. I was cradled between them. Every part of me pulled taut between guilt and comfort. They didn't speak again. Neither did I. There were no declarations, no apologies. Just the sound of skin against linen, the occasional breath caught in the throat, and the trembling stillness of the in-between. Somewhere deep in the night, I let go. Not just of restraint, but of the version of myself I thought I had to hold together. The one who waited for messages that didn't come. The one who carried loyalty like armor, even when it cut. When the candlelight from earlier had died, I hadn't known what I was inviting. But now, in the hush of this moment, I knew exactly what I was accepting. And even as I closed my eyes, I knew that when the sun came, everything would change. But tonight, I just needed to feel wanted. When I woke again, the sky had changed. The first hints of morning light painted soft streaks across the wooden ceiling. The fan was off, and the room had grown warmer. I blinked into the stillness, the air around me thick with the remnants of last night. The bed was quiet. I was alone. The sheet had been straightened slightly, though not perfectly. One corner hung to the floor, and the pillow beside me still held the faint impression of Toby's head. On the edge of the nightstand sat a folded piece of paper, its edges slightly curled. Next to it was a small, hand-drawn sketch, just a rough-line portrait of me sleeping, hair tousled, lips parted, shoulders curved toward the light. Underneath, written in soft pencil strokes, "You didn't run. That's all that matters. K and T." I stared at it for a long time. My hands trembled, just slightly. My heart didn't race the way it had last night. It just ached. I rose slowly, standing barefoot on the cold tile floor. I pulled on my shirt and stared into the small mirror above the desk. My eyes looked different. Tired, yes, but also quieter. The kind of quiet that only comes after something intimate and irreversible. My phone blinked on the corner. A single message notification lit the screen. Max, hey, sorry I've been so distant. Work's been chaos. I miss you. Can we talk tonight? I didn't open the message. I just held the phone for a while, letting it buzz faintly in my palm before placing it face down again. What would I even say? That I'd been faithful in all the ways that count, until the one moment that did? Outside, I heard voices. Laughter. Familiar tones. I stepped quietly to the window and peeked through the curtain. Toby and Cabello were by the well, fetching water. They were joking with one of the older women from the village, and when she said something teasing, Toby threw his head back laughing. Cabello stood with a soft smile, glancing at the sun as if nothing had changed. They didn't look up. They didn't search for me. And yet I felt something unspoken pass between us, a knowing, a shared secret buried beneath the morning light. A part of me wanted to run down, to say something, to ask what this meant, or if it meant anything at all. But another part knew it didn't need meaning. It had already served its purpose. Last night wasn't about love. It wasn't about lust. It was about permission, the permission I gave myself to stop waiting, to stop measuring my worth through someone else's schedule, to be desired in a way that wasn't promised, but felt real, even if fleeting. Still, guilt curled somewhere inside me, quiet and cold. I wasn't sure if it came from betraying Max, or from how easy it had been. I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I just folded the sketch, slid it into my notebook, and zipped my bag. When I stepped outside, the air smelled of sun-warmed clay and boiled maize. Kids were already gathering near the schoolhouse. I walked past Toby and Cabello without a word. Toby's eyes met mine just for a second, not longing, not regret, just acknowledgement. Cabello didn't look up. I reached the school steps and stood there for a moment, watching the sky shift fully into day. The children's laughter was bright, their joy untouched by the weight I carried. I thought of Max again. His voice, his hands, the way he used to rest his chin on my shoulder in the kitchen. I knew I still loved him, but I also knew something had broken, not violently, but quietly, like thread pulled loose until it couldn't hold the shape anymore. Maybe I would tell him. Maybe I wouldn't. I didn't know. All I knew was that last night hadn't erased my relationship, but it had reminded me what it felt like to be wanted, seen, and chosen. And maybe that was something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in far too long. I turned back once more toward the well. Toby winked. I smiled, not because I was proud of what happened, but because I wasn't hiding from it anymore.